Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, we're going to be talking about turn phases in games, which is to say that maybe all players will perform a certain action or choices of actions, and then move on to another separate part of the game where they receive income or they exchange goods with other players and such. This sort of mechanic allows players to kind of keep track with one another in a way that maybe other games do not. But we'll also look at an example of a game that does away with turn phases and see how that affects the gameplay as well. So let's jump on over to the table next door and see what we have in store. We are back with Dragoon because it is just such a fun game to look at on the camera, but also play around with in front of you all. So last video, when we talked about action points, we saw the front of the card, or I should say maybe this front of the card. But on the back side, we also have the kind of turn breakdown in a sense. Maybe not the entire thing, but the way that the game starts is with a village phase where 2 dice are rolled, just the ones right here, and that determines the coordinates of where a village will sprout up on the board. We can see kind of this copper die, and there's a copper side here, as well as the onyx die or black die, where the coordinates are listed on the bottom. So 6 by 2 is going to appear right here. If I recall the rules correctly, we will do this for the number of players. And let's see if we get an example on camera. If the same roll is found and the space is already filled with a tile, we will upgrade the village into a city, where we'll flip the card over and receive more income during a future turn phase in the game, if a dragon player has claimed that tile. So this happens at the beginning of every round, and that will probably change a lot of the players' decisions for their turns. As we can see, the silver dragon is right up close next to a village, and they will probably want to spend their action points, as we discussed last video, to move a space onto that tile and then claim it with a second of their 3 action points. I should also mention that we were going to roll 1 time for the Thief's Treasure chest in a similar way. And that should have happened before, so maybe the Copper Dragon, or Rose Gold as I like to call it, would have actually gone here to steal treasure from the thief instead. But now that we've made it through the players' turns, we will visit that tribute phase. It says here on the card, at the end of the round, roll 1 die to determine how much your claimed population tiles will pay you. So as we've seen, the silver dragon and the black dragon or onyx dragon have both claimed a tile, and they each will roll a single die. We'll give the copper die to the silver, and we'll give the onyx die to the onyx dragon about how much gold they will receive. Again, villages are the black tiles faces, and the cities are the red ones. So silver dragon rolled a 5, which means that they are going to gain 1 gold, add that to the score track on their end. And the black dragon, let's make sure that this is a 1 and not a 6. It is a 1, so the black dragon, or onyx dragon, will lose 1 claim instead, which means that actually their castle, their claimed piece, is removed from a village of their choice. And then we begin all over again by rolling more villages onto the board, and player taking their turns with the visited action points from last video, playing any cards for free that they like, and then again claiming tributes until 1 player has 40 gold and is crowned the winner of Dragoon. In contrast to Dragoon, however, a massive game like Scythe turns out to have, well, not really any turn phases whatsoever. This was a conscious design decision by the designer, Jamie Stegmaier, to have the game feel a little bit more immersive and provide some more player agency to those who are sitting around the table. On their turn, players will select one of the 4 actions on their action player board by devoting or committing their pawn to, again, one of the 4 columns. They will then resolve the top half of the action, and if they have the provided resources or necessary resources, they may perform the second action or bottom row action of the column that they've decided for this turn. Instead of a turn phase where every player will get to choose an action and then resolve, kind of consolidating or putting all of these together in a single player's turn allows the turns to actually go around the table a little bit faster, as the more personalized actions here in the bottom are resolved while maybe the next player is choosing their main top action. In a similar way, this keeps the game from having to take certain breaks as all players wait for everyone else to get to, let's say, a tribute phase, as it so happens in Dragoon. A lot of Euro games sort of fall into this aspect where players will take their turns, then kind of begin to upkeep or take care of any necessary resource management, a purchasing phase, and so on. However, all of that has more or less been removed in Scythe, so that, again, players will be taking their turns as quickly as they wish and keep them in the gameplay as opposed to taking them out. And now I'm in a miniatures mood. Here's a bonus game example to show you in a cooperative setting how turn phases might work. As you probably know from, again, the past video with The Captain is Dead, a cooperative game has the players pitted against, well, the game itself. And in Zombicide Green Horde, the game is fighting back as zombie AI. So once all players have taken their turns, we're going to be revealing the Horde deck based on the experience level of the players, whichever is the highest most tier that any of the players playing is in. We will draw a number of spawn cards equal to the number of spawn points, or Horde cards, equal to the number of spawn points on the board, and resolve, again, based on the level of the highest experienced player. So in the case of the blue flame, we're going to be adding 2 Orc Walkers from the supply to the board. Players get to decide at the beginning of the game what order to resolve the spawn points for the duration of the mission, and be placing said miniatures or monsters, orcs, onto the designated spaces. We should also mention that before this spawning happens, any orcs who are already on the board will get an opportunity to move based on their movement speed. So, for instance, if you can see them all the way up here, if these orc walkers were there from last round, they each will move 1 space closer to the closest player, or wherever is the most noisy, designated by noise tokens. We'll spawn for the next spawn point here at the bottom, and add 1 orc walker to the bottommost spawn point. And lastly, we will add what looks to be 2 orc runners. Here we go, we'll zoom it up a little bit closer for the camera, at the last spawn point. Now, you may have also noticed a hexagon with the plus blank, and that number indicates how many extra orcs will be added to the Horde zone, an area off of the main board where orcs will collect, upon which, when an Enter the Horde card is drawn, all of them will be moved onto whichever spawn point was drawn for this card. After all zombies have moved and spawned, players will then go back to their turns to try to deal with the oncoming threat, while attempting to accomplish whatever mission is in store for them. I hope these 2 games provided you with 2 different examples of how games can and maybe don't use turn phases to varying degrees. Hopefully they'll give you a little bit of insight into how you can implement turn phases into your future design as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on future content like this. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint, and together, let's build something great.